numbered about 1,000 people. Mountains rose up in the north, containing the Santa Fe National Forest. On the east and west were red and blue mesas, and to the south the land opened upon a wide sandy plain. The pueblo lay at an elevation of 6,000 feet. I experienced a kind of freedom at Jemez that I have not known before or since. There were no physical boundaries to speak of. My parents gave me a horse, a strawberry roan gelding I named Pecos, and for the next several years I rode over every part of that magical landscape on horseback. I came to know that world as one knows the rooms of one's house. It was for me a house made of dawn, pollen, rain, and wonder. Having the curiosity, the fearlessness, and the expectation of the unexpected, qualities that belong especially to the young, I had little difficulty in entering into the rhythm of life there. It was where my imagination took flight. My parents and I were a camp within a camp, and we supported each other in many ways. My mother was a writer, and she was securely grounded in the English language and literature. She gave to me a love of words and books. My father was a visual artist and a Native American whose first language was Kiowa. From him I learned a good deal about painting and would become a painter myself. Moreover, he told me stories from Kiowa oral tradition when I could first find my way among words. Later, my interest in and knowledge of the oral tradition would shape my work as a writer and a professor of literature. From both my parents I received the gift of inspiration. The years immediately following World War II were critical at Jemez and in the Indian world generally. A generation of young men and women were taken from their traditional world and placed in an alien world at war. There was profound psychic displacement for them, and many were wounded by the experience. Abel was one of these. The first time we see him, at the very beginning of the novel, he is a man disabled by his experience of warfare and disorientation. Throughout, he is partially and importantly defined by post-traumatic stress. I knew several men at Jemez who suffered from this condition. They struggled to re-enter the world in which they were born and raised, and from which they had been suddenly severed. And this was a struggle waged across Indian country at large. For many, too many, the struggle was lost. They died of alcoholism, murder, suicide, and a kind of spiritual isolation. Indeed, some managed to survive, to regain their former security and sense of belonging. There is, of course, a story in this, and I was given the opportunity to tell it. During their tenure as teachers at Jemez Pueblo, my parents bought a house at Jemez Springs, a village several miles north of the Pueblo. It is a spectacular canyon place, with multicolored cliffs rising hundreds of feet high on either side, and a sparkling river running through it. That house, a large stone and adobe structure built in 1870, is the Benavides house of my novel, and it was there that I began the writing of House Made of Dawn. At first, I wrote merely as an exercise, not daring to imagine that my early efforts would result in a novel. I had begun my studies at the University of New Mexico, and I wanted to become a poet. I put the budding novel aside and immersed myself in the work of such poets as Dylan Thomas, Hart Crane, Wallace Stevens, and Emily Dickinson. I entered poetry writing contests with fair success and was encouraged. I published my first poem and announced to all who would listen that I was a professional writer. A year after my graduation, I was awarded a Stegner Creative Writing Fellowship in Poetry at Stanford University. In my 4 years as a graduate student at Stanford, I studied under the distinguished poet and critic Ivor Winters, who gave me excellent guidance and inspiration. In 1963, I graduated from Stanford with a Ph.D. in English and American literature. I joined the faculty of the University of California, Santa Barbara, as an assistant professor in the